What is up, everyone? Welcome into another edition of our MLB Live podcast, this time for July 22nd, 2021. I'm your host, Bales, as always. We're going to give this a little bit of time, a few minutes, to get some more people in here. Let me see if I can get the link. Just bear with me while I send this out. Honestly, just so we can get some people in here, talk about the MLB slate. I believe we have an 8-game slate tonight. It's actually a relatively solid slate, in my opinion. But just give it a little bit of time until a few people trickle in here. I have the chat pulled up. So if anyone has any questions, feel free to ask. We can talk about literally anything up until we start the MLB stream. I know that there's a lot of weird stuff going around. Looks like DeAndre Hopkins actually just, I don't know if he tweeted it and then deleted it or something, but contemplating his future in the NFL because he doesn't want to get vaccinated. I haven't looked into it at all. It just seems to be trending. I know that Ben, our DFS guy Ben, who is not very into golf, not into it, but hasn't played a lot of golf, has challenged Anthony to a match. Is that what it's called in golf? I don't know. 18 holes against each other. Have to lean heavily towards Anthony in that, but Ben said that he's going to put his mind to it and get good at golf. Do I trust him? I don't know. But as always, this is indeed an MLB Live podcast, just kind of discussing literally whatever until a few more people get in here. I guess what we can probably start with a little bit of housekeeping here. If you guys don't know, we have partnered with a new app called Jock Market. Go download their app. It's JOCKMKT. Essentially, it is a combination of DFS and the stocks. It's pretty fun. We've been playing around, I don't know, a week or two at this point with it, but it's really fun. They have free contests. When you create your account, use the code KARMA. You'll get a nice little deposit bonus. Obviously, then the other thing that you're going to want to do is head to dfskarma.com and go to join our chat room. I believe you can also use chatdfs.com as well. Get into our free Discord, kind of just discussing things at all time. That's where we talk about Jock Market, but we have channels for free bets that we give out for basically all sports. We have DFS channels to get into our premium stuff, which is, kind of where coaches sit at times, closer to lock. Like, we'll answer stuff in the free chats at all times, but closer to lock, we're generally in the premium chats. You can go pick up our core plays, grab a package there. That is on dfskarma.com. Just go under subscriptions. I guess this has been enough time. Sorry if you're watching this on replay and just wondering when I'm going to stop talking about stuff that isn't the slate, but the answer is right now. So 8-game slate. As always, we'll go over pitchers, stacks, and then position by position. If you have any questions, feel free to drop them in. As long as everything's working, I'll answer them. If it's not working and people are asking questions and obviously I can't see them, I do apologize about that, but still not a YouTube guru at this point. The number one option, specifically in cash games to me, is Walker Buehler. Initially, I kind of liked Sean Manaea a little bit more. The more that I look at it, Buehler's throwing at an extremely high level. I still do like Manaea. I think he's a really good play. I would just try to get to Buehler. He gets a bump from Lipka as his ump tonight, and obviously gets the top Vegas line. The game's set at, I believe, 7.5. He's like a 170 favorite or something. I don't love the matchup against San Francisco. With that being said, it's not like Seattle is the offense that you just 100% pick on anymore at this point. So at the top, it's clear that Walker Buehler is my 1, Sean Manaea is my 2. I believe that's probably, or I guess those are the only 2 that I would spend up for. I think Anthony DeSclafani is fine. I would not go there in cash. That's strictly a tournament play. I just also don't really want to pick on the Dodgers at this point, and there are plenty of pitching options on the slate that I don't really think that you have to. Kenta Maeda, Zach Thompson, I'm not really interested overly in either of them. I believe if you want to take your shot in tournaments, feel free, but I would drop down to the next arm that I like is Charlie Morton. His advanced metrics are better than what he's been throwing, and he's been throwing at a significantly higher level in recent games. He's flashed a ton of upside. I think it was against the Mets. He had almost 40 DK points. So getting a matchup against the Phillies, who do strike out quite a bit, I think that there's good parts to it and bad parts. Obviously, they're playing in Philadelphia, which is a very hitter-friendly stadium. The problem, I guess not a problem. I guess the good thing about Charlie Morton is that they do strike out a lot. So he can give up a couple of runs and still have a very, very good game. I believe in cash at this point, if I were picking two pitchers, it would probably be Walker Buehler and Charlie Morton. The other option that I would consider would be Blake Snell, just because he's way too cheap. The problem that I have with him is that he's not throwing at as high of a level as he has in the past. So I believe on the season, his xFIP slightly over 4, which, is not good. It's just his ERA is significantly higher. He's due for positive regression, and he has more strikeout upside than the average player at 7,800. I think if you're playing cash games, you probably are choosing between two of the three, which is Walker Buehler, Charlie Morton, and Blake Snell. I do think that Sean Manaea can more or less be put in that pool and make it 4, but you're probably spending up on one of the two high-priced arms and then pairing them with either Morton or Snell. I prefer Morton. I get if you need to drop down to Snell for his price. He's $900 cheaper. Outside of them, there's not too many pitchers that I'm interested in. I think that Luis Patino's okay. I don't necessarily mind him. Tanner Houck, that's why I said minor. I was thinking Tanner. But Tanner Houck at 5,300, I think if you want to take a weird shot, go ahead. I don't really love him by any means. I don't think he throws overly deep into this game. But at the same time, the Yankees will strike out a lot. The lineup they're putting out is not good whatsoever. And if Houck can throw like 80, 90 pitches tonight, I do believe that he at least has the chance to pretty easily exceed his value at 5,300. Besides that, Andrew Heaney is the only other guy that I would really take my shot on. I don't like the matchup. I think that Minnesota is a good offense. They have a lot of good right-handed batters. It's difficult to trust a pitcher like Heaney, who's gotten destroyed multiple times this season. The good thing is that he's 6,900, which is way too cheap. He does have a lot of strikeout upside, and Andrew Heaney is due for a ton of positive regression, so it could start tonight. It's just he obviously has a very bad Vegas line. We know that Minnesota is an offense that can get to pitchers, and they have plenty of right-handed bats throughout the lineup. I believe that's basically it for what I'm looking at from pitchers. I don't really like any other options. I think we can more or less move along to stacks here. For me, the number one stack, I think, has to be Boston. It comes down to two for me. It's Atlanta or Boston. I think that those two are ahead of basically everyone else. I know that Minnesota has a really good Vegas line. They're tied with Boston for the highest implied on the slate. I would much rather play Boston. I also think that the matchup against Matt Moore is about as good as it gets for Atlanta. It's really difficult at the moment to trust Atlanta's offense. So I would do what I can to get them. I think that Minnesota is more or less a fine tournament stack. I wouldn't go there in cash. I would also say that Tampa Bay is in a very good spot. I like them quite a bit. And then if you want kind of a lower owned team that's going to go more or less completely overlooked, I think the Chicago Cubs are in a decent spot. Kim's due for a lot of negative regression. I guess you don't really have to say negative, but you get the point. His xFIP sits a lot higher than his ERA. I don't love that he doesn't give up a ton of home runs, and that's probably a main reason why his ERA is so low compared to his xFIP, just because he's not going to get absolutely torched by home runs on any given night. But I do think that Chicago makes an interesting stacking option just because I don't love where Kim's at. I think that his advanced metrics are obviously significantly worse than the way that he's actually throwing. But I don't know. I also do think that the Angels are sneaky. I think that the Yankees are kind of sneaky, even though I do like how I don't. I'm not worried about him as a pitcher, really. I'm more worried about the Yankees' offense just being legitimately bad. That's probably about it. I think you can take a shot on Oakland. I'm just not really prioritizing them. I think 1 for me is Boston, 2 is Atlanta, 3 is probably Tampa Bay, 4 Minnesota, and then 5 probably the Yankees. If I had to just break down the 5 that I like the most, but I think that it's pretty clear that I would go Atlanta or Boston in cash games. I do think that people could go Minnesota, Tampa Bay there too. I do believe that those 4 stacks stand like head and shoulders above everyone else. So I believe that those could be the options that people attack more or less for cash games in this slate. And then it's kind of a slate where you just want to get a little weird in tournaments, in my opinion. But we can move to position by position. I think the number 1 catcher at this point, initially, I wrote up Kevin Smith. I do think that he's a really good option. I just feel like you probably would prefer to spend the extra $600 and get Christian Vasquez hitting 6th for Boston. If you need to drop all the way down for like the complete punt, Kevin Smith, I think, is an extremely good option. I have no problems whatsoever with him. If you want to spend up at catcher, I would say Gary Sanchez is probably the top option. I wrote up Mitch Garver in the breakdown, which you can find on dfskarma.com. He is now on paternity leave, of course, but we still have some high-priced options that I do like. I think that Gary Sanchez is probably the top one. I believe you can go with Wilson Contreras against a lefty. He's leading off. And then there are mid-tier guys. Like if you want to play Mejia, or assuming Ryan Jeffers is in the lineup, he's 3,400. I just think that I would probably, if I'm spending up, play Gary Sanchez. And then if I'm dropping down, Christian Vasquez, if you can't get to him, Kevin Smith. And that's basically where I would leave catcher. Unless obviously you can always, if you're stacking a team and you just want to play the catcher in with them. Like if you're stacking the Cubs, I would highly recommend Wilson Contreras. Obviously, he's one of their better bats, but those 3 really stand above the rest for me. Moving to first base. So Freddie Freeman gets the lefty matchup. I have no issues with him. I really like him. I think he's a great play. The problem is he's $500 cheaper than Shohei Ohtani. I much prefer Ohtani. I also think that Jared Walsh at $5K compared to Freeman at $5,500 is a very good play. So any of those 3, if you're spending up, I think make great options. They would probably actually be my top 3 on the entire slate. And then if you need to spend down here, it's pretty clear to me that you're going Bobby Dahlbeck and just playing him against a left-handed pitcher. 2,400 price tag is pretty ridiculous anytime he plays a lefty. I know he's hitting 8th, which obviously we don't necessarily love, but it's not like we're overly scared of Montgomery at this point or anything. Plus, they're playing in Boston, where the Red Sox offense has just been virtually unstoppable. If for some reason you can't get the extra 400 for him, you have Michael Chavez at literally the min price at 2,000. He's hitting 9th. I feel like you would probably play him at 2nd over 1st because Dahlbeck is a better option in my opinion. But for the most part, I think Shohei Ohtani, Freddie Freeman, and Jared Walsh stand above the rest at first base, with then Bobby Dahlbeck just being kind of the salary relief option. I think that's probably the majority of guys that I would go. Bobby Bradley hitting 5th. I don't really have too many issues with him either, but that's like strictly a tournament play. I believe we can move to second base now. There's 2 clear-cut top options, in my opinion, at this position. I think that 1 is Kike Hernandez. He's second base outfield eligible for DraftKings. He is an outstanding play leading off for Boston. Obviously gets the matchup against left-handed Jordan Montgomery. I 100% feel like he is completely mispriced at 3,800. He's been outstanding in recent games, flashed a lot of upside. I really like him. The second one is Brandon Lowe at 4,600. He's leading off for Tampa Bay, gets the matchup against Cal Quantrill. Again, it's just a really good matchup. He hits right-handed pitching extremely well, and he's been on fire over his last 10 games for a bit longer than that too. So I think that Brandon Lowe and Kike Hernandez are where you're going to prioritize second base. Outside of that, I do believe you can play someone like Ozzie Albies. Obviously, the matchup is really, really good. His price tag's low because he hasn't been playing overly well. At 3,800, if you just want to shift off of Kike Hernandez, I do think that Gene Segura, even in the matchup against Charlie Morton, is underpriced. And then you just have a few other guys that I would consider, like DJ LeMahieu. I have no problems with Joey Wendell, Jorge Polanco. They all make good plays. Rougned Odor is still under 4,000, assuming he's hitting third for the Yankees. I don't have any issues with that play either. At third base, I'll be honest, not a position I like. I don't really like anyone here. Even guys that I'm willing to play, it's not like I feel great about any of them. I think the two that stick out are Josh Donaldson, even though he's 5,000, and Austin Riley at 4,400. I much prefer Riley. He's been playing well. Gets the matchup against Matt Moore in Philadelphia. So I would probably just take a little bit of salary relief there and play Austin Riley. I do think that Joey Wendell, Wander Franco, if you need to go all the way down, assuming he's playing and leading off, Luis Ariz, even in a lefty-lefty matchup, that's kind of like the salary relief option because I don't think you're going to go much lower than that. But overall, I just feel like the top option is Austin Riley, and that's more or less just kind of where we're sitting at the moment because I don't like this position whatsoever. At shortstop, I do think there are more options. You have guys like Wander Franco, who I already talked about. Fernando Tatis Jr., if you want to go up there, I have no problems with that. The top play for me has to be Xander Bogaerts. Anytime he's playing in Boston, I will 100% consider him. Anytime he's playing in Boston against a left-handed pitcher, I feel like he's going to make one of the best plays on the entire slate. His numbers at home against lefties are just outstanding. At 5,300, you're considering guys like him, Wander Franco, who I think that Bogaerts is a tier above on this slate. Even like $500 below him is Dansby Swanson, who I think is a really, really good play. I just don't think that he's really that close to Xander Bogaerts. And they're only 500 apart. Besides that, there's not too much that I feel like I want to attack. I would say like Javier Baez, and I'm fine if you want to use him in a Cub stack, but he's almost 6,000. So just get to Tatis if you can. I think that would be much smarter. And then if you want to take like a weird shot on like Didi Gregorius, just because, you know, he does play well against right-handed pitching and they are playing in Philly, his price tag's reasonable. I would just at that point try to get to Dansby Swanson, or I would probably drop down to someone like Gleyber Torres. The salary relief option here, if you want, I believe that Andrelton Simmons is fine at 27. Taylor Walls is fine at 23. But again, I would try to spend up for someone like Dansby Swanson or Xander Bogaerts. In the outfield, Nelson Cruz is a guy that immediately sticks out. I mean, he just hits left-handed pitching extremely well. We know that Andrew Heaney struggles with home runs. So Nelson Cruz is a relatively obvious option. You have the Tampa Bay guys. I don't have any problems with basically any of them. Brandon Lowe's leading off. Arozarena is hitting second. He's 4,800. Austin Meadows has to be the most mispriced of the entire group. He's hitting fourth. He's down to 4,000 because he's been really cold recently, but he's just a very good hitter against right-handed pitching. And, you know, we're not really worried whatsoever about Cal Quantrill. So I do believe that Austin Meadows is one of the more mispriced players on the slate. For Atlanta, you have Jock Peterson, Heredia. I have no problems with them just because of their price tags. Especially, people probably won't play Peterson because he's so bad against left-handed pitching. Significantly better against righties, but he's leading off, so he'll probably see, 4 or 5, maybe 6 at bats, depending on how they do. And you're not really that worried about Matt Moore throwing deep into this game. So he should see a right-handed pitcher out of the pen. Not always guaranteed the case, but at 3,500, it's just not something that I'm scared of. So I feel like he's a really solid option. Down at like 3,100, Dylan Carlson, I don't have too many issues with that. I believe you can use the Boston guys, JD Martinez, Hunter Renfroe, Kike Hernandez, all outfield eligible. I probably won't be playing Alex Verdugo. He's just hitting too low in the lineup. If he was hitting like second, I would at least have to consider it, but I'm not going to go down to, I believe he's hitting 7th. I don't really think that you have to go down to that. I do like Giancarlo Stanton. I think, his price is a little too low just for the home run upside that he possesses, especially in like a reasonable matchup. So I have no problems if you want to take your shot there. Realistically, there's a good amount of outfielders like Shohei Ohtani you can use in the outfield to open up first base. Kevin Kiermaier is 2,100. He's only hitting 7th, but for almost the minimum price, I don't really have any issues whatsoever if you want to take your shot playing him. I think, honestly, that about does it. I outlined, the majority of players that I feel I would probably be willing to use. As always, you can head into our free Discord and literally ask any of our staff anything you want, and we'll always be there to answer. You can do that by going to chatdfs.com, and it'll direct you to the Discord, or you can head to dfskarma.com and click on the little chat room, and it'll take you there. dfskarma.com is also where all of our articles are up. I posted the breakdown today. Ben has posted game theory. We'll be doing final thoughts then later. So that's where you pick up a package, get all of our stuff. Also would like to shout out Sam, who does all the projections, which are fantastic on the website. They're all there for free. So head over there, check everything out. For now, I will give you guys my home run call. It would be Nelson Cruz. That's too easy, though. It's just obvious. You know what I mean? Nelson Cruz is a pretty clear-cut option. So we're going to have to go with someone else. I'm going to go with Bobby Dahlbeck. I know I've called his name a lot this year because he's so powerful against lefties. So a lot of the times when he gets a lefty, I do call for a home run, but it would make a lot of sense for him to hit one in this game. So I'm going Bobby Dahlbeck. Once again, don't forget we've partnered with Jock Market. Check out their app. Use promo code KARMA when you sign up to get a nice deposit bonus. Check out all of our other stuff. We have props. We do a little bit of everything. So for now, good luck tonight, and I will see you guys with Ben tomorrow.